Welcome to this part 3 of Indian monsoon lecture, and this will be our last session on Indian monsoon. We have already explained lots of other factors except Indian dipole and La Nino and El Nino in the part 2, like Somali jet stream, tropical jet stream, subtropical jet stream and all. The Muscarine part, how the Somalia jet stream help in hitting the monsoon on the Indian land. In the part 1 we have clearly defined the basic global wind formation over the globe and how this global wind formation help in formation of Indian monsoon when the ITC jet shift towards the northward. So in this section we have take separately Indian monsoon for the factors left behind, that is the Indian dipole and the El Nino and La Nino conditions. Moving ahead, Indian Ocean Dipole. See, Indian Ocean Dipole, it will be termed to be as positive and negative. Positive means if it have a very heavy rainfall in the Muscarine Island region, then we call it as a Indian Ocean Dipole positively. And if it will be negative, then it will be have less rainfall. Okay, so this is our Muscarine Island, and this here we will have a high pressure area, and the low pressure area will be seen on the Australia part. So as the low pressure area, the air will raise above, and in the atmosphere when it will hit the troposphere, it will move in all direction, and in this way one direction will be towards the African coast, the Muscarine Island coast, and this will go and fall to the Muscarine Island. And when the high pressure will be there, and ultimately when some more heating will occur, the intense low pressure will occur, and this will again lead to vaporization of water droplets, and ultimately we will see this Somali jet stream is getting formed, and this will get intense push to the Indian Ocean. So that is we call as a positive dipole. So in the Muscarine Island, so African coast, we will see flood formations, huge flood will occurring in the positive dipole kind of situation. So the same thing is explained here, that high pressure at the Muscarine Island, that this is your Muscarine Island, this one, high pressure at the Muscarine Island will be there, and if we have high pressure zone, so wind will move in all direction. Okay, like if we have high pressure zone, it means that the wind is not raising above, wind is moving in all direction. Like what happened, I have explained earlier in this lecture, I will again explain that when there is a hitting of land, let us suppose this is a land, when there is a hitting of land will happen, like sun ray is falling here, then the water droplets will evaporate. So what happens, the direction of the water vapor, that raising of the air will be in this direction. Okay, now it will hit the troposphere. Okay, when it hit the troposphere, this wind will move in all direction in the atmosphere, in the top of the atmosphere, maybe it is 50 kilometer and all. Okay, when it hits the tropopause and all, then it will move in the all direction, and ultimately one direction will move towards the Muscarine Island too. This low pressure I am talking about is that Australia. Now ultimately when it start to travel, it will start to decline, the height will start to decrease. Why? The troposphere will start cooling those warm water droplets, and ultimately this will get heavier, it will get its dew point, and it will turn into a water droplets near where? Near high pressure area, near this high pressure area, and ultimately this will be accumulated over those high pressure area, and it will hit that land, and again in the high pressure area it will move in all direction. Okay, this happens, this is the normal phenomena, and it will form your one cycle. Okay, so that thing is repeating here, that if we have high pressure zone, then wind will move in all direction at the surface. Okay, so it moves towards India and Australia as well. So normally in Australia there is a low pressure is observed, so high pressure to low pressure wind will again move. Like here if we see that now wind will move in this direction, again there is a land, it is moving in this direction also. So what will happen, why is it moving in this direction? In this direction it is because this area is your high pressure area and this area is a low pressure area, that is Australia one, and wind moves from high pressure to low pressure, and this occurs in the land area. So now this will move to, one part will move to the Australia, and another part, if we have low pressure in the Indian Ocean, then this part will also move to the Indian Ocean as a southwest trade wind. Now if there is again low pressure here, so we will see that this is moving in this direction also and this is moving in this direction also. Okay, now if the southwest wind is intense, then it will help in pushing off the Indian monsoon, and in that scenario we will get a good rainfall. Okay, and this led to a formation of La Nino kind of condition we will see here. So it moves towards India and Australia as well. Normally in Australia a low pressure is observed. It is created mainly because of ocean current at eastern Australia get accumulated, that comes from South America and near Africa high pressure zone. What is it saying? That this situation happens when we see ocean current at eastern Australia is getting accumulated. So if we get the accumulation of water here, warm water here, then what will happen, low pressure zone will be created. Okay, and in that season we will have a high pressure zone in the Mascarene Island. So ultimately this water will rise above and it will fall in the Mascarene Island, and thus this phenomena of positive dipole, this positive dipole will occur. Okay, that thing is it is explaining here, that it causes low pressure at area Australia, air raises in Australia and form two cycles are formed, one at Africa and another at South America. How? We will explain it again here. Like it is saying that first statement, it is saying that it is created mainly because of ocean current at eastern Australia getting accumulated comes from South America high pressure, and now near Africa high pressure zone will be created. This thing I have explained in this diagram, that this warm water will be accumulated in the Australia region, and ultimately you will see high pressure zone in the Africa region. And why this warm water will be get accumulated, I will explain later. Okay, now this part, it causes low pressure area at Australia and air raises in Australia, and when air started to raising in Australia, it will form two cycles, one at Africa and one at South America. How? We will see. I have explained it here. I have explained multiple times that whenever there is a low pressure zone, the air will rise above, it will hit your troposphere and it will move in all direction. Okay, so now at Australia, this is your Australia, air will raise above now. Okay, air is raising above, it will hit the troposphere, it hits the troposphere. Now it will move in all direction, okay. Now the one in one direction it will move to the South America part, this one it will move to this Africa part, this part. So one is moving to the Africa part. Now it will cool down and it will get down in the Africa part, that will lead to formation of your high pressure zone. This will be high pressure zone. Okay, and ultimately when it hits the ground, it will move again in that all direction. So one wind will move in this direction, one wind will move in this direction. Okay, now this is what doing, this is forming one cycle. So one cycle is formed in Africa side. Now from your South America side, this is your South America. So now what happened, air will raise above from this area, this Australia, and now it is going above, this is going above, and now it will move in South America direction, because it hits the troposphere. In troposphere it will move in the all direction. So now the one part will move in the South America direction, in the Peru region. Now what will happen, the troposphere after the traveling, it will get started to cool down, because this is a warm droplets, warm water. Now it will start to getting cool down, and this will get fall down in the Peru region. After it getting cool down, it will get form in the Peru region, because there is a high pressure in this area. There will be high pressure. Now it will get cool down, and again this will hit the land, and it will move in all directions. So one cycle will be formed in here. So one cycle you are forming in Africa region, and another cycle you are getting formed in the South America region, that is the Peru region. So this thing is explained, that one is here and one this is here. So in air one cycle is formed, and in water also another cycle will form. That will help in the El Nino part. I will explain it later. Okay, so thus you have understand that it causes low pressure at Australia and air resistance in Australia, and it formed two cycles. One cycle will formed at Africa zone, and another cycle will be formed at South America zone. Okay, now if high pressure is intensified at Muscarine Island due to hitting of Tibetan Island, and Australia having low pressure will lead to intense monsoon wind. What is it trying to say? That in the second part only I have explained it. I will just give a small introduction. See, this high pressure is getting formed from two regions. Like if in that year one high pressure, intense high pressure is getting formed, that low pressure is formed at Australia. So intense, the air will raise above, it will fall down. And now let us suppose in Tibetan Plateau also you had a very intense low pressure. So this will also what, this here also air will raise above, and it will come, it will fall down into this Muscarine Island region. Now what will happen, this area will be intensely high pressure, and now after in the summer you will get this area will be low pressure, and this area of the Australia will also will get low pressure. And now the monsoon entrance into the India will be very intense. It may also get flood. This Africa part will be get heavily flooded, and even Australia part will get even heavily flooded if this is a La Nina condition. This is a part of La Nina condition. I will explain it in the last one. Okay, so because you are getting that wind, that accumulation of that water here, that from vaporizing from the low pressure of the one Tibetan also and one from Australia also, this will what, this will create intense high pressure. The pressure gradient will be very high, very high. Okay, so this will help in, this will get a very high, lead to very intense monsoon wind. So if Muscarine Island high pressure will be weaker, so monsoon in India will also be weaker. Like if this low pressure is weak, if the Australia does not also have a low pressure, intense low pressure, then high pressure here will also be weaker. So ultimately the pressure gradient force is weak. Now thus you will get very less weaker monsoon. This is we will observe during El Nino condition. I will explain it in the coming session. So low pressure at Australia will be weaker, thus high pressure at Africa will be also weaker. Okay, so the first part where I have told you that heavy rainfall will occur in the Africa regions, and it will also may in the India regions and all. So this is a part of La Nina. This is a part of La Nina. La Nina, what I have said, Australia will get low pressure, but in this is a normal standard. Australia will get every year low pressure, but in La Nina condition, the Australia will get intensely low pressure. The low pressure Australia will be very, very, very low in compared with the normal temperature. So ultimately what happened, the intensity of water raising above, water vapor raising above will be very high, and it will get fall in where Muscarine Island at very high pace, and ultimately the hitting of this Muscarine Island regions and Somalia regions, the rainfall occurring all these regions will be very high. So you will get flood in Africa region, heavy flood in Australia region, and the flood also in the monsoon of India regions also, because it will push the Indian monsoon very in very speed, very intense force, because the pressure gradient force will be very high. So this is Indian monsoon. When you will get flood in all in the Africa regions, when you will getting very good high pressure zone in that area, and ultimately that accumulation will be there, and now heating will be occur. So what will happen, you will get very good rainfall in those regions. So that is known as positive dipole. And when we will get less rainfall in the Africa regions and all, then you will say negative dipole. Okay, now one question will be coming in your mind, why this is moving into this direction only, and after this I am saying that it will move on the Indian motion, Indian plan in this direction. I have explained in the first part only that this is trade wind, this is south east trade wind, and when the ITCZ moves in the northward, you will not get northeast trade wind, you will get south west trade wind. Okay, this you will getting southwest trade wind. Okay, I have explained in the first part of this lecture. I hope please go through that lecture also if you are not able to understand this concept, like why this arrow is given in this direction, why this arrow is given in this direction. Okay, and I request you to all please go through this lecture till the end, so that you will understand this topic very clearly, because it is a very tough topic, very complex topic to understand. Okay, now we will see El Nino condition. I have explained in this dipole only various part. Now it will be easy for you to understand El Nino. That's why I have explained it in the dipole part only, because it is very difficult to understand for many of the child, because in the books the language given for the El Nino is very tough. Okay, so what happened, just it is introduction. I will just complete this slide, then we will move in the next important slide. So this slide is saying that we don't know in which year which condition will be affected and monsoon will get impacted. So that's why in India we will see that some superstition kind of thing, that people will start do puja and all, because we don't know that in which year this Tibetan plateau will get intense heat, low pressure, in which year the Australia will get intense low pressure. Like suppose in a year this area also will not be get in low pressure, this area is not getting low pressure, then ultimately the high pressure will not be present, and this will not make your monsoon to move here, because the wind blows from high pressure to the low pressure area, high pressure to low pressure. But if there is no high pressure, how this low pressure will face, how will low pressure will cause to move this highly pressured wind into the Indian Ocean? Because it needs pressure gradient force is required, and if you don't have accumulation of low pressure in those areas, thus the monsoon intake will be very slowly. So that's what it is saying, that in India the monsoon prediction is very high. That's why we have developed a superstition kind of thing. So many people will do puja and all. Okay, and in history it is given that when the puja is used to perform in that fire altars, so the smoke will used to rise in the atmosphere. So they used to believe that this smoke rising in the sky is carrying information, carrying their puja, carrying their request to God. It was believed in the history. You will read those things in the history. Okay, so we don't know in which year this condition will be affected and monsoon will get impact. So it is difficult to predict the monsoon. That's why superstitions come into play, because people were unable to predict the rainfall of each year, and they started to believe in various religions regarding it. So due to southwest monsoon, this is southwest monsoon or southwest trade wind. This one is only southwest trade wind. Wind blows from equator to tropic. This is equator, it is blowing from equator to tropical region, and winds are blowing in the direction of southwest, get further pushed from the Somali jet stream. Like if there is a Somali jet stream is formed, Somali jet stream, I have explained it in the part 2, that what happens when the high pressure is getting accumulated, here also low pressure will form, and when this low pressure will form, the air will raise above, but the heating of water compared with the land will be low. So that's why it does not touch that troposphere, that intense troposphere, that it has to go to the another high pressure zone. So this what happens, this raise at the low atmosphere only, and this start to move in two direction, in the Mediterranean Sea or Arabian Sea, or the Indian Ocean part. So when two branches, so these two branches, that here these two branches will be in the Mediterranean Sea and one will be the Indian Ocean part. So this part help in give another push to the Indian monsoon. That winds are blowing in the direction of southwest trade wind, that I have that it is actually normally it is moving, and again the Somali jet stream is getting formed. So this jet stream will give a stronger push to the monsoon, and the monsoon hit on the Indian coast will be stronger, and this will get very good rainfall in that year if the Somali jet stream is also stronger. So just consider a situation where your Somali jet stream is also stronger, your Tibetan also have a low pressure, then Mascarene Island, that Australia also have a low pressure. So thus imagine the condition, how much kind of destruction will occur as a flood in all those regions. Okay, and heavily destruction will occur to the Australia and this Somalia regions and Mascarene Islands regions. Okay, now the main part of this lecture is the El Nino one. If you understand El Nino, you will know La Nino. I have explained, I will just give you one image kind of things in the part 1. Now here you will see El Nino. See what will happen in this El Nino. In normal year, you will see water is getting accumulated over Australia. Warm water. Why warm water? And we explained, because of trade wind, equatorial trade wind we will see also. So in normal year, this will get accumulated in the Australia, and when this is the reason of low pressure, and when this low pressure happen, thus it will give in the formation of monsoon and all, you will get rain in all in the Africa regions and all. But in La Nina year, what happens? This low pressure formation will not happen here. This low pressure formation will happen in the Peru region, in the South America region. Thus what you will feel, you will get, this will be as high pressure zone. Okay, earlier it was like your Africa was at high pressure, your Australia was at low pressure, your South America was at high pressure. Okay, this is Australia, this was low pressure. So what was happening? Air was rising above, it was falling in the high pressure. Air was rising above, it was falling in the high pressure. Okay, and again high pressure, air will move to the high pressure, to the low pressure, it will go to there, it will go to there. And why it is moving in this direction? Because in the troposphere the air will get cooled down and ultimately it will fall in the high pressure zone. So the two cycles that were forming from Australia regions, from two cycles we will get Australia region, that we have explained in the Indian dipole. Okay, but in the El Nino condition, your Australia will have high pressure. Okay, and again you will have high pressure at Africa region and low pressure at South America region. Okay, now this is a problem, because now you will not get, this high pressure area will not get much that water droplets in that year, because in the normal year you were accessing the water droplets or the force from the Australia because of the low pressure only, because low pressure was creating the water droplets to evaporate, and when it hits the troposphere it was moving to that high pressure zone. But in this case this phenomena will not occur. So what happens? One pressure gradient force has been reduced. It is not like that this is high pressure and this is also high pressure equally. For comparing with this one, like for comparing with this high pressure, this is a low pressure only. For him it is a low pressure, but the intensity will be low. Like in the normal year it was like that, the low pressure was, let us suppose a unit of low pressure was something called 100, and this was high pressure, so it was around, let us suppose it was around 200. Okay, so the difference was very high in normal year, but in El Nino year this will become 180. So what will happen? Yes, comparing with this one it is low pressure only, but the intensity is very less. Okay, earlier it was normal, it was 100, so that's why you are getting good rainfall in the good monsoon season. But in La Nina year you will get high pressure in the Australia, compared with the previous one, it is not high pressure. If we compare with the it is low pressure only, but compared with the previous one, it is a high pressure, and thus you will get less rainfall in the Indian monsoon. Okay, so this is something called as El Nino phenomena, and why this is occurring, I will explain it again why this phenomena is occurring, but the basic thing of El Nino is that one only. Okay, so moving with this slide, we will go much deeper again. Just see, these diagrams are there, we have to explain it again. Okay, so that's why I will just give a brief introduction. I have made you familiar with the El Nino condition. What is El Nino? Now, as per this slide, at Pacific Ocean, South America western region will be our eastern side, and Australia region will be our western side. This is our western, this is our eastern. At the equator, due to trade winds, ocean current from east to west will flow. That equator, due to this trade wind, the water will, like, see what happens. This is your equator, this is your equator. Okay, why it is saying that due to trade wind? Now here you will get north east trade wind. Okay, and here you will get south east trade wind. Okay, here you will get southeast trade wind. So what happens, this will create what? This will push your water. Push your water where? Push your water in Australia regions. Okay, this is your southeast and this is your northeast trade wind. Okay, so it is saying that at equator, due to trade winds, this northeast trade wind and southeast trade wind, ocean currents from east to west is getting flow from the South America regions to the Australia regions, and in that region what happen, warm water will be accumulated in Australia, and whenever warm water get accumulates, we will have a low pressure area being created here, that is in Australia, and within equator also we have a low pressure and high pressure happens. So low pressure and high pressure also depend upon is relatively difference between the two areas. So it is just ignore this part, that you will have a low pressure area here, and within the ocean it is saying that we will have a high pressure. So here also we have high pressure and here will we have low pressure. That thing is explaining here. Okay, now what happens, this is your, let us suppose this is your tanker, this is your ocean. Now warm water is getting accumulated in where? In Australia. This is your Australia and this is your Peru. Now warm water is getting accumulated in Australia, and now just consider the cycle within the water. Now what will happen, this warm water will here deep inside the ocean, you will get what? Cold water. In the top surface you will get warm water. So this cold water will go here and this cycle will move here. So here will be your, now again it will start to move in this direction, because what happened, when you will have ice on a water, ice will be on the surface, but below the surface you will have a water. Okay, so the compared with the temperature, the surface temperature will be high, that at the temperature below the water will be low. The same thing will happen. So now it will get, cycle will be formed within the water, and here what happens, the cold water will raise above for the cooling and all, because high pressure is coming here. So the cold water will be here, and this, when this cold water will raise above, this will bring nutrients from the surface of the ocean, nutrients from the beds of the ocean to the surface, and this will make fish to attract at those regions. So in the normal condition, this will create a zone of fishing area. In the normal conditions, they will get lots of fishes are attracted in the Peru regions. Okay, because this cold water will bring nutrients above the surface, and fish will come there and feed on those nutrients. Okay, and we will have a little bit warm water in the, that is bottom of the ocean. Okay, so that thing is mentioned here. And this, when you will have a lots of fish here, fishing will happen, lots of birds will be attracted, and it has been said that birds excreta is a source of fertilizers and all, and it has been used and from long back. So in this slide it is mentioned. So in Peru, cold water will be have upwelling, and in let us remove all these things. So in Peru, the cold water will be have upwelling and air descents happen. That this is your high pressure zone. So what will happen? The cold water will raise above and air descending will happen. What air descending? This is a low pressure zone. So air will raise above it, that at the troposphere it will go there, it will start cooling down and it will fall in here. Okay, so that is saying that upwelling of cold water is usually so that is saying that, one second, it is saying that in Peru we will have upwelling of cold water, and in air, this is air, is descending happening. So due to high pressure, so the upwelling of cold water is usually nutrients rich, and the water is getting accumulated and is nutrient that is water is getting accumulated and nutrient not is poor. Okay, nutrient rich. So the nutrients particle will come above and lots of fish will come and eat nutrients. Thus that area will be good for fishing. And at Peru, Humboldt cold current is also there. From here you will see the Humboldt current, that is also a cold current. Humboldt cold current is there. So high pressure is being created, and along with fishes it is believed that the lots of migrant birds will come here and eat fish, and they go on the land, this land, Peru regions and land. Okay, and they go on the land, stays there, and it is believed that from historical that this land required that land required urea for agriculture and other activities were get fulfilled by their excreta with these migrant birds. And it has happened long back period back, it is not something new. Like why these regions are getting nutrients also, because from long back it is not something new, it is from happening from long millions of years, and some of the best urea export are from these regions only. Okay, and it is believed, there is no proof for it. Okay, it is believed that the urea is getting that formed here because of the excreta of those migratory birds, that is happening because of the formation of that is in the normal condition, because of the fishing area. In the normal conditions, nutrients will come above, fish will come here for eat those nutrients, and it will be a good area for the fishing, and thus birds are also get attracted. But in the La Nina condition, this thing not happens. This area will be low pressure zone and this area will be high pressure zone. So ultimately your fishing will be affected. Cold water will not raise above, there is no formation of cold water because this area will be a warm water. As compared, warm water is doesn't mean that boiling water compared with the ocean. Okay, so this warm water will be here. So ultimately nutrients will not raise above the fishes. In the El Nino condition, you will not get much fish in that region, and you will get intense rainfall, very high rainfall. And in that El Nino year, the flood occurs in the Peru region and the drought occurs in the Australia, Africa and the India regions. Okay, remember in El Nino year, South America, Peru regions will get heavy flooded, and the Australia, Africa and India regions will, Australia not much, but Africa and India may suffer drought kind of condition. Okay, that's why the people of Peru regions praise from the god that give us rainfall, not El Nino. Okay, so explain it here. So the two cycles used to happen, one inside the water and one at the wind level. That I have explained it here, that one cycle is getting formation here and one is getting from inside the water. That will carry that when the warm water will get accumulated here, then it will get accumulate, and then it will move to that Peru zones, and Peru zones will be cold water will be raised. So one cycle is getting in the atmosphere and another cycle will be get formation in the within the water. But remember, I haven't explained yet why this is returning back. What is the reason behind returning back of this this warm water? I have explained it in the normal year. This northeast trade wind and southeast trade wind make it to move to the Australia region. But why happens, but why in the El Nino year this is returning back? We will explain it in the just within a few time. Okay, see, so the two cycles will be there. So we have something called El Nino year. It is called as hottest year. El Nino year will be called as hottest year for us, and usually it is observed heating is more of the ocean, so the warmness is not just present at this region Australia, it gets spread in the ocean, and sometimes very rarely we have equatorial trade winds and northeast and southwest on equator and equatorial westerlies. So in opposite of the trade winds and push the water accumulated Australia towards the Peru as the accumulated water will move back. So now you will get your answer. In the normal year you will get southeast trade wind, northeast trade wind, southeast trade wind, northeast trade wind. Your water is getting accumulated here. But it happens very rarely that this pushed your air in Australia, this pushed your air in Australia. Now what happens? You will get equatorial westerlies. Equator also have its trade wind. Now you will get equatorial trade winds. These equatorial trade winds will make water move backward. That one is westerlies, one is trade wind, and one is westerlies, and this made accumulation of water in the Peru region. This is the reason, and still there research are going on, but this is one of the theory that is given, that the accumulation of warm water in the Peru, it is because of the equator westerlies wind. Okay, so the trade winds get accumulated of the warm water in the Australia regions in the normal years, but in the El Nino year it happens because of equatorial westerlies. Okay, so it gets accumulated more at Peru and spread throughout the equator. It is not like that, yes, the Peru area will be more accumulated, but the warm water will be accumulated throughout this region. See, in the normal it is not spread throughout the region, but in the El Nino condition it is spread throughout this region. Okay, so whenever this happens, relatively high pressure will be at Australia regions and low pressure at Peru. Compared with the previous year, high Australia will pressure, compared with the Peru, Australia will at that high pressure. But if we compare with the Australia with the Africa regions, Australia will be at low pressure. But comparing with the previous year, normal year, this low pressure will be less. That is, pressure gradient force will be less. Okay, so wind will rise above in Peru and fall at Australia region. This part of the cycle is weaker and it happens during the winter month. What is saying? That I have explained it here. Like when the wind will rise above, it will hit the troposphere and it will go to the high pressure zone and it will fall down. The same thing it is mentioned here, that when the Peru regions will be get heated, it will fall in the Australia region. So it will hit down. Now it will fall in the Australia regions. Okay. So this part of the cycle is actually weaker, not much stronger. It happens during winter months. So this time cold water at Australia region will be well piled up and Peru region will go down and rainfall will be seen in the Peru region. So Peru regions, in this region you will get warm water, in Australia you will get cold water. So the fishes will go away in the Peru region and fishermen will be get affected, and rainfall during the El Nino will be leading to flood. So people pray for rain, not for El Nino. So this is your El Nino. So the summary about the El Nino is here because it is a big topic. So I have added it here in the more constructive way. Okay, this is total summary of El Nino. So this global phenomena occurs in the equatorial Pacific Ocean under the influence of trade winds. This occurs in the influence of the trade winds and the equatorial westerlies. Okay, the equatorial currents get accumulated at Australia and Indonesia, resulting in piling of warm water. This lead to the low pressure cell in Australia during normal years. Trade winds happens in the normal years, but for the that is El Nino year, equatorial westerlies will come into play. So near eastern Pacific, the displacement of water is replaced by the upwelling cold water, which is nutrient rich for the fishes, explained in the Pacific region. So the presence of Humboldt current and Peruvian current further cools of the ocean, leading to the formation of high pressure cell. in the Peru regions. So the high pressure cell and the low pressure cell forms a cycle in the Pacific Ocean, which is named as a Walker circulation. This will be your called as a Walker circulation. Okay. When the Walker circulation is properly developed, then the Indian Ocean Dipole is also developed properly. Okay. That in the normal conditions, when the Walker circulation is properly developed, then Australia will get low pressure, so Indian Ocean will the dipole will also be get developed purely, that is positively, that is heavy rainfall. So this further intensify the easterly jet stream and hence more rainfall. During El Nino years, two different impacts are observed due to equatorial westerlies in doldrum, that is this equatorial westerlies, and you will be getting trade winds here. So doldrum is my calmness, very intense low pressure will be there in that area. So the in doldrum winds, you will get those things again in part 1. If you are getting some difficulties, go to the part 1, you will understand everything. Here also I have repeated many times, but if you go for the part 1, it will be very easy for you. So due to equatorial westerlies, doldrum winds blow from west to east and carries the warm water accumulated towards Peruvian coast, leading to the piling up of warm water in the surface of equatorial Pacific Ocean. So due to this, high pressure may be developed in Australia and low pressure near Peru. Okay, and this leads to the lack of nutrients as water does not come over and less fishing area, as I've explained in this part earlier also. So but this has a severe impact on the Indian subcontinent as it affects easterly jet stream. So due to this increase in temperature, the Pacific Ocean may be intensely heated. So due to this, we will observe that low pressure is spread over Pacific Ocean and it leads to weakening and changing in the Walker circulation properly, that was helping in Indian dipole. Okay, this is known as southern oscillation also. And during La Nina year, which is opposite of El Nino, we observe that the low pressure, that in the normal year also you will have Australia will face a low pressure, but in La Nina year it will intensely get low pressure, more low pressure will be there. Okay, that is it repeating here. So that low pressure in Australia intensify and this leads to the Indian Ocean dipole being positively, that means heavy rainfall, and Australia will get very intense flood and leads to flood in several portions of Indian subcontinent as well. So what is the El Nino effect on India? So in normal India, Australia is at low pressure and Mascarene Islands along with the Peru at low pressure will be from high pressure, that they will get low pressure, will be from high pressure to low pressure. But during El Nino, we have a high pressure at Mascarene Islands and high pressure in Australia. In normal year, low pressure is in Australia, but in El Nino year, Australia will be at high pressure, but in comparison with the Mascarene Islands, it will be a low pressure only, but the intensity will be very low. Okay, and low pressure at Peru. So compare with the Peru and Australia, yes, Australia will be high pressure, Peru will be low pressure. But if we compare the Mascarene Island and Australia, normally Australia will be at low pressure compared with the Mascarene, but comparing with the previous year, it will be very less. Like suppose in the previous year, the high pressure was 1000 and it was low pressure, it was around 500, but in the El Nino year, this will be get 950. So by the data, it is at low pressure when we compare this one, but the intensity is very low. That I'm trying to explain it here. Okay, so the high pressure at Mascarene Island, high pressure in Australia comparing with this low pressure, and it will be low pressure only comparing with the Mascarene Island, but it will be very less. So the cycle will be disrupted. Very small value of pressure gradient will be happening between Mascarene and Australia. That's why it is writing that very small value of pressure gradient happening, because low pressure is there in Australia. So as we know, low pressure air will raise above and it will fall in the Mascarene Island, but intensity will be very less. So as the difference will be less, thus intensity will be reduced and thus pressure gradient force will decrease and high pressure at Mascarene Islands will also get decreased. So this will lead to monsoon weaker, and in normal temperature difference will be huge and rainfall will be seen in Peru regions and less rainfall will be seen in the Indian and the African region. Okay, so the technical explanation for this El Nino with the water perspective, I have explained it here, again I will explain. Okay, so now during normal year Australia get rainfall, but El Nino heavy rainfall happens at Peru. So single cycle in formed in the Walker circulation, that is southern oscillation, explained in that part only. So this is your single cycle, this is your single cycle. Okay, so this is your Walker circulation, this is a normal condition, and this will help in what? This will help in formation of positive Indian dipole. Okay. Now when change happens, it is called when changes happen, it is called a El Nino southern oscillation. When this happens, you will get double cycle. So two conditions are required for the formation of El Nino. One, accumulation of warm water in Peru, and another will be increased temperature. So in this paper you will see that warmness is increasing in the western coast of South America, means El Nino formation condition is happening, is going to take place, and it is a favorable condition for the formation of El Nino. So El Nino will have impact in Indian region as well. During El Nino, low pressure is being formed at Indonesia region, and Indian Ocean is getting at high pressure zones, thus it will affect Indian monsoon as well. Okay, so now we will go through this diagram how this is happening. See what happens in the normal year, your Australia will get low pressure. Okay, so what will happen, air will raise above, it will hit the troposphere, it will move in this direction, and it will fall in the high pressure zone, that is in the Peru region. Okay, now your Peru region is what? Peru region high pressure area, and this is what? Low pressure area. So wind will move from what? Wind will move from high pressure to the low pressure, and further you have a trade wind also in the northeast direction, northeast trade wind, and this is your southeast trade wind. So this will help in moving the that winds from Peru regions to the water, will help in water to move from Peru regions to the Australia regions. Okay, so what will happen, your warm water will be accumulated here. So warm water is lighter, so it will be here, and then it will be your cold water. So now what will happen, there will disbalance, there will balancing will happen. So this will get pushing your, that this is pushing your water. So what is happening here, your cold water is raising above, and when this cold water will raise above, it will bring nutrients and all here, it will create a zone of fishing area. Okay, now we will see a El Nino condition. This is a normal condition. Now you will see El Nino condition. So now El Nino condition will what happen, now that earlier this trade wind was getting moving here, and this trade wind was getting here. Now you will see equatorial westerly. So this equatorial westerly will force this water to move in the Peru regions also. So now this will move here, this will move here, and what will happen, the heating will occur. So water will start to raise between the ocean only, between this part only, the water will start to raise above. Okay, so now when this will raise above, one part will move to the Australia region and another part will be moved to the Peru region. The most of the part will move to the Peru regions. Okay, it is not fixed, but it is just more research is going on, still the research is going on, but this is the theory right now. So in the troposphere, when it will hit, it will move in the all directions. So it will move in this direction, in this direction. So one cycle will be formed for the Australia region, another cycle will be formed in the Peru region, but the intensity of the Australia will be very low, intensity of the Peru regions will be very high. So you will get more rainfall. Now in the water, what is the condition? So this area will be your cold one, high pressure zone, and this area will be your low pressure zone. So what will happen, this cycle, that now here your water pool is there, the warming of water will, again disbalancing will occur. So thus, like this is also pushing, this is also pushing, and here will be low pressure. So now water will start to that is moving down, and here you will have cold water upwelling here. So this cold water will start again balancing those things. So your warm water will come above, and it will get a less fishing zone, and Australia will make it, and that will get fishing zones good. But for this year, for El Nino condition, the fishing zone is not good for Peru regions, and ultimately this area will be get heavily flooded. Okay, so this is your El Nino. Now La Nino, just opposite, that your Australia in normal year you will get high pressure here, and low pressure here, high pressure here, but in El Nino, high pressure, low pressure here, high pressure here. Let me again say, in normal year low pressure, this will be a high pressure, and in El Nino year this will be high pressure, this will be a low pressure. But in La Nino, same thing, this one normal year condition, but the low pressure zone will be very intense, too much intense. That will be create a formation of La Nino. So La Nino, in normal years the water will get accumulated in Australia region, but during La Nino intense heating happens at low pressure at Australia. The pressure gradient force will be very more, like suppose in the normal year the low pressure number was 100, high pressure number is in the Africa regions is 500. Okay, but not 500, let us compare, this is 300, but in the La Nina year this will not happen. This will, the intense low pressure will come to what, 100. So what happened, there is intense low pressure, the pressure gradient force will be much, so what, that will start move very fast, that water vapor will raise very quickly in the atmosphere, and it will start troposphere, it will hit troposphere, it will move to the Africa region, and it will fall down. Okay, so when there is a high pressure in Indian Ocean and Australia has low pressure due to La Nina, pressure further will get reduced due to the easterly jet stream will be stronger. Like easterly jet stream I have explained from your that is Tibetan plateau and all, so from there you will get easterly jet stronger. So as a pressure gradient force is more, so easterly jet stream movement will be there also. Then you are moving that Australia regions is also giving intense force because it is also have very low pressure, so thus push for this monsoon will be very high, because monsoon coming in India is only because of the low pressure of Australia, and you are saying that again in that Australia low pressure is there but intense low pressure. It means what? It means that monsoon will be very high, and in that year Australia will get flooded, Africa will get flooded, and India will also get flooded. Okay, so when easterly jet stream will move from, it causes floods in the major regions of India. So during El Nino, drought occurs in the region, because El Nino droughts occur because Australia is a high pressure, so thus monsoon is weaker during El Nino conditions, so that's why India may face drought during that year. But in La Nina years India will face floods during that year, and Australia will face major floods, very high floods. So it has been reported that La Nina results in heavy or better monsoon rains in India and droughts in Peru. In that year Peru will have a drought, okay, because intense low pressure will be in Australia regions, and heavy floods will occur in Australia, and high temperatures in the Indian Ocean and the Western Pacific. Okay, so I hope I have explained it better. It has taken very much time. I have given you much time in explaining those things. If you have didn't understand, if you have found difficulties in it, just go through the lectures again and again and just try to understand the simplicity. And I request you please stick to the lectures from part 1 to part 2 to part 3, then only you will be able to understand, if you are new to this monsoon chapter. Okay, so I request, if you have found difficulties, go to the part 1, part 2, part 3, then you will understand very easily. I have repeated many times in the lecture also. In this lecture also I have repeated part 1, part 2 and part 3. Okay, further also if you have any doubt, please feel free to ping on my Twitter handle. We will have a call discussion also on this if you find any difficulties and all. And if you want PPT also, I will give you, just ping me on my Twitter handle. Please like and subscribe. Your subscription is a form of payment for me, and it is a new channel. I need your support. Thank you.